Good morning, students. I am Pramod Joy, your computer science teacher, and we are going to deal with that file handling. File handling. That's the third topic from that unit number 1, computational thinking and programming. We completed the first two topics, and they were functions as well as the use of Python libraries. Now, the third topic, file handling. And this video explains the use of files, why we are using a file, how to enter the data into a file. That means how to input the data or how to write the data into a file. And later how to read that data, how to read from a file, how to get the data from a file in order to use it for the various purposes. So shall we start? File handling. Files help in storing information permanently. Data files or data files are the files that store data pertaining to a specific application for later use. The data files can be stored in two ways: text files and binary files. And mainly we are going to deal with the text files. A text file stores information in ASCII or Unicode characters. In text files, each line of text is terminated with a special character known as end of line character, EOL character. In Python, by default, this EOL character, end of line character, is the new line character. A binary file is just a file that contains information in the same format in which the information is held in memory. In binary file, there is no delimiter for a line. Also, no translations occur in binary files. As a result, binary files are faster and easier for a program to read and write than are text files. The most basic file manipulation tasks are writing data to files, reading data from files, and appending the data files. How we can open a file? Maybe to read the data from a file, or to write the data to a file, or to append a file. How we can open a file in various modes. That is explained with the help of examples. For example, the very first one, file 1 is equal to open students.txt. File 1 is a variable name. Any variable name you can give. I gave file 1 or f1, whatever it may be. So f1 or file 1 is equal to open students.txt. It gives a command, it gives an instruction to the compiler to open a file called students.txt. And by default, if no mode is specified, it will be in the reading mode. That means read mode, in order to read the data from file. That means the example 1 is exactly equivalent to example 2. And what is example 2? File 1 is equal to open students.txt, R. R means read mode. Like that, you can see the other examples. And the other examples are explained below. For example, the last example, file 1 is equal to open R. After that, within double quotes, E school student.txt in the read mode. The exact address, the meaning is given as the point, the very first point. The prefix in front of a string makes it row string. That means there is no special meaning attached to any character. The slashes, in the case of the third example, the slashes, you can see 2 backslashes instead of just 1 slash. Normally it is just 1 slash when you define an address. The slashes have special meaning, and to suppress that special meaning, escape sequence of slash is given. Means, suppose if you are writing e school e slash e colon slash school slash students.txt, w, there is a chance to use that different escape sequences. For example, new line, or for example slash t. If a file starts with the slash t, if a file name starts with t, or if a file name starts with n. But in Python, slash n stands for new line, slash t stands for tab space. So that's why we are using two backslashes. Or you have to open it with the help of an R, and you can use a single slash because it is explained in the very first point. It makes that a row string. Now the point number 3. If the file name is given without its path, Python will open or create the file in the same directory in which the module file is stored. If the file name is given without its path, for example, the example number 1 and example number 2, Python will open or create the file in the same directory in which the module file is stored. Now the third one, a file object is a reference to file on disk. File object means that file 1. It opens and makes it available for a number of different tasks. File object is also called file handle. Different file modes are explained here. The very first one used for the text files, and the second one used for the binary files, and the third one explains the action. For example, you can see that read only, write only, append, like that. That specifies that action. So text files, that is R stands for read only, W stands for write only, A stands for append, R plus stands for read and write, W plus stands for write and read, A plus stands for again the append and write or read. Okay. And in the middle you can see that RB, WB, AB, RB plus or R plus B, WB plus or W plus B, AB plus or A plus B. Those explains the different file modes like read only, write only, append, read, write, write, read, write, read. In the case of binary files, a file mode governs the type of operations possible in the opened file. It refers to how the file will be used once it is opened. An open file is closed by calling the close function or method of its file object. In the previous example, file1.close or f1.close, that's an example for that. The operating system may not write the data out to the file until it is closed. That means file1.close or f1.close is a must. That means at the end of the program you have to close the file. If the program exits unexpectedly, there is a danger that the data may not have been written to file. This slide explains the various methods to write to a file and how to read from files. The various methods to read from files. In the case of writing onto files, write, a write method or a write function. For example, file1.write of str1 writes string str1 to file referenced by the file handle. That means before that we have to write file1 is equal to open with the file address and all and in which mode. After that file1.write of str1. Now write lines. File1.write lines of L writes all strings in list L as lines, that means line by line, to files referenced by the file handle. Reading from files, read. File1.read reads as at most n bytes if no n is specified. That means if nothing is specified within that bracket, reads that entire file. Read line, file1.read line of n reads a line of input. Reads a line of input. If n is specified, reads at most n bytes. Read lines, f1.read lines reads all lines and return them in a list. Example programs. The program number 1 explains how to input a name, just to enter a name into a file. The second program explains how to input more than one name, that means a set of 5 names into a file. Example program 3, which explains to read and display the entire file. Example program 4, which explains to read and display the number of bytes specified. Example program 5, which explains the read lines operations. Example program 6, which explains the append and write lines operations. Example program 7, which explains the write and read operations simultaneously. That means one by one after another. After write, then read. Flush function. When you write onto a file using any of the write functions, Python holds everything to write in the file in buffer and pushes it onto actual file on storage device at a later time. In order to force Python to write the contents of buffer onto storage, flush function can be used. Python automatically flushes the files while closing them. But to flush the data before closing any file, flush function is used. Strip function. To remove the trailing and leading white spaces, strip functions can be used. Strip is the R strip and L strip. To remove the character from the both ends, to remove the character from the right end, and to remove the characters from the left end. Example program 8 to define the strip function. Standard input, output, and error streams. If SYS module is important in the program, for example, import SYS, sys.stdin.read can be used to read from the keyboard. Like that, sys.stdout.write is used to write onto the standard output device. The sys.stdin standard input is always opened in read mode and sys.standard output is always opened in write mode. And an example program is given below.